Hello, my dear students. Today I would like to give you an introductory lecture on postcolonialism. This is part of your complementary course titled Literatures in English. In your previous semesters, you were introduced to literature written in Britain by the canonical writers. In this course, you will be dealing with writers from America and from the postcolonial world. You also have a module on postcolonial theory. So I'll just try to enlighten you on the basic tenets of postcolonialism. As you must have guessed by now, postcolonialism means after colonialism because post means after. So what is colonialism? Colonialism is the product of European modernity dating back to the 15th and 16th century. European nations pioneered state sponsored expeditions to different parts of the world. As we all know, they had the latest technology with them. John Gutenberg invented the printing press. They had state of the art shipbuilding techniques. The concept of nationalism first emerged in Europe. The notion of modernity was ushered in by Renaissance. All these factors lend credence to the idea that Europe was the origin of civilization. We know this is wrong now because there were oldest civilizations like Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, Indian civilization, and Chinese civilization. So, Europe is never the origin of civilization. So, that idea itself is wrong. Are you familiar with these names? Magellan, Vasco da Gama, Christopher Columbus, Francis Drake, Bartholomew Dias. We all know that Vasco da Gama came to Calicut. He landed at Kapad in 1498. Christopher Columbus discovered America. I will give you an activity. Find out the nationalities of all these explorers Magellan, Vasco da Gama, Christopher Columbus, Francis Drake, and Bartholomew Dias. Also, find out who sponsored their expeditions. We know that traveling to very far away nations in a ship took almost more than 1 year. It took years. So it was a very costly affair and they needed somebody to sponsor them. So please find out the sponsors. In most of the cases, the sponsors were their own kings. So the colonial project was to explore and to conquer the unlimited resources in the colonies. It was not just a political conquest but also an ideological conquest. Who introduced modern education in India? You must be familiar with the name Thomas Babington Macaulay. Macaulay believed that modern education would emancipate the locals or the colonized. If you go through the minutes of Macaulay, we find that the aim of modern education was to create a class of persons Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. Macaulay, like many other colonial educators and administrators, discouraged traditional education and forced upon the natives English and modern education. The basic idea behind modern education was that Europe was a superior race. Look at the phrase Great Britain. Why is Britain great? Britain was great because Britain ruled around 75% of the globe. Are you familiar with the name Rudyard Kipling? Of course, what comes into your mind must be Mowgli and the Jungle Book. Rudyard Kipling has introduced a notorious term called white man's burden, which means that the white man has a big burden, that is to colonize and civilize the savage peoples of the world. Kipling once said, "Oh, East is East and West is West, and never the twain shall meet. Kipling was trying to show that the East and the West are antithetical. He looked up at the East and the West as binaries. So, colonialism was an exploitative mechanism. It involved economic exploitation of resources, the use of native peoples and their knowledge, and the conquest of territory and markets. There are many people who still believe that it was Britain that introduced modernity in India. Sometimes they quote the example of railway lines being introduced in India by the British. Now, why did they introduce railway lines in India? They wanted to transport raw materials and finished products. Let's have a look at where the first railway lines were located. We find railway lines in the hill stations like Shimla and Nainital, Dehradun, because these British people they could not stand the scorching summer of Delhi. So they invented summer capitals in places like Shimla, Dehradun, and Mussoorie. We also find railway lines in places where there were rich natural resources. Our own Nilambur is an example, where, and we all know that Nilambur is rich in teak. So, post colonialism means after colonialism. That raises another big question. Is colonialism really over? Doesn't it still continue in various new forms? What do you mean by neo-colonialism? We'll explore all these at a different stage. The colonies started struggling for independence. There were freedom movements in different parts of the world. We know that India attained independence in 1947. Many countries in Africa also attained independence. In countries like India and Africa, countries of Africa, many of the colonizers they went back to their respective countries. Whereas in countries like New Zealand, Australia and Canada, many of them chose to stay. These are settler colonies. Whatever is the case, there are many similarities in their experiences. Post colonialism as a whole contested colonialism. It questioned the foundational assumptions of colonialism, and one of the basic idea was that Europe was a superior race. So the first project of post-colonialism was to undermine the universalist claims made by liberal humanist critics. Liberal humanism nurtured the idea of the timelessness and universality of literature. That is, literature expresses timeless, universal truths. This idea is contested not only by the post colonial writers but also by the feminists and the Marxists. They identify the unidentified speaker of the timeless text as a white, heterosexual man who is not free from class and gender prejudices. We'll discuss the examples in the later sessions. Postcolonialism emerged as a distinct academic category in the 1990s. Under the guise of universalism, postcolonial critics argue that white, Eurocentric norms and practices are being promoted and propagated. One of the seminal writers of postcolonial theory was Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon's major work was The Wretched of the Earth, published in 1961. He argued for a cultural resistance to France's African empire. Being a psychologist, he tries to trace the psychological effects of colonialism. Colonialism teaches you that you are inferior. You accept that otherness. You have that feeling of inferiority complex. This build-up of inadequacy results in violence, and the colonized become aggressive. So, the aggression of the colonized is attributed to the othering by colonial discourse. He used the idea of Pan Africanism in order to counter Eurocentrism. He talked about taking recourse to African myths and African stories, African knowledge, in order to counter the assumption that Europe was the center of civilization. He argued that the blacks had to create their own history and write their own stories. Fanon says there are three stages in postcolonialism. In the first stage, the colonized emulate white culture. In the second stage, they turn to their own culture, realizing that they can never really emulate white culture. And in the third stage, they become truly anti colonial and they battle colonial domination. Fanon was prophetic in stating that the idea of national culture will lead to xenophobia. Another important work of Frantz Fanon is Black Skins, White Masks. Look at the title. Though the skin of the colonized, he was talking from an African context, though the skin is black, they try to wear white masks. In this book, he talks about an incident when he goes to watch a movie in a theater and where he finds that the villains are always blacks. Finally, he realizes that that black villain is he himself. This creates a schism in his personality. Being a psychologist, as I already told you, Fanon was more concerned with the psychological effects of colonization. The first step that the colonized should do is to reclaim their past because Eurocentric discourse tried to prove that these colonized people did not have a past or that history really began with the arrival of Europeans. The second step was to erode colonialist ideology, to counter them and to subvert them by different means. Another major writer was Edward Said. His work is Orientalism, which was published in 1978. It was an expose of Eurocentric universalism. It tried to demonstrate the political nature of culture. He argued that the East was a projection of those aspects the Westerners do not choose to acknowledge in themselves. So the East becomes a repository of very contradictory qualities like cruelty, sensuality, decadence, laziness, exoticism, and so on. Said tries to prove that the East is not a reality but a literary discursive creation. The East and the West were built on contrast. The East is decadent, the West is progressive. The East is uncivilized, the West is civilized. The West is rational, the East is spiritual or mystical. Another key text is The Empire Writes Back. It is co authored by Bill Ashcroft, Gareth Griffith, and Helen Tiffin. Look at the title The Empire Writes Back. All this while, they were writing about us, or the Westerners were writing about us. Now we are writing back. This is the central idea. In this lecture, I have tried to introduce the three major theoreticians or the three major works. One is Fanon, the other is Said, and the other is The Empire Writes Back by Bill Ashcroft. Please try to do more readings on these authors before we go into the next lecture. To put in a nutshell, postcolonialism is a reaction against colonialist ideology. Postcolonial writers adopt diverse strategies in their writings, which we will be doing in the next couple of lectures. In one sense, we are all products of modern education. Do you think we are inferior to Europeans? Think about it and try to write a few reasons for that. Let that be an activity for you. So today we are winding up. In the next class, we will be doing David Diop. Before that, I want you to read something on David Diop, the African writer, and the Negritude movement. Thank you.